Anin ko kakanata na way maganak. Natalie Langan netizen ka siko konsekono se aning na wenzi.
Natalie Langan is a native Soto speaker. She hosts the Akani Nakanatan podcast for Pikiswewin, a family of podcasts designed to help revitalize Indigenous languages. Akani Nakanatan means leadership in the Soto language. It's also the focus of her podcast.
Because I grew up in such a traditional environment, I was raised by many different family members who were really involved in their culture and tradition and their language and various types of jobs. And so I wanted to know what leadership meant to them in any capacity. Who did they look up to? How did they get to where they are now? What kind of guidance was given to them?
Langan was raised by her grandmother in Fishing Lake First Nation, a community northeast of Regina. She learned Soto as her first language since her grandmother did not speak English. Her grandmother raised Langan alongside her cousins, where they learned many traditional ways of living.
At the time, when you're that young, you don't think that it's anything different. That was just the way of life.
Shannon Avison is the supervisor for Pikiswewin. She is also an assistant professor at First Nations University of Canada, where the project is based. She says she wants to create content in Indigenous languages with hosts like Langan.
The project is really to create content, a variety of content in Indigenous languages. So when we were sort of looking around, we realized that there's lots of podcasts about, Indigenous culture, even about Indigenous languages, but none of them are in the Indigenous languages. And so that's what we wanted to do, was create actual podcasts talking about things like leadership and parenting and food sovereignty in the languages.
Langan says that the experience has been challenging but rewarding.
It was because, personally going back to, I guess, my childhood and not being as fluent as I used to be. So, and that's why I say it was a challenge, because I basically had to relearn. I had to remember a lot about my language, my history, my culture, and, go back to those roots.
Langan dedicates the podcast to her grandmother.
Whenever I hear the language, especially when I go back home, that's what it reminds me of. That's what it makes me feel. It makes me feel at home. It's really comforting. It's soothing. When I put myself back in that environment, my mind just knows what to do. It knows how to understand those words. It knows how to feel comfortable. And that's what that means to me.
Pikiswewin releases new episodes every week of both new and running series. Episodes can be found on any podcast platform and the Pikiswewin website. For Inca News, I'm Emilie Wren.